Number 10. Doggerland, Britain was not always an island. That one sentence already sounds wrong, but it is true. Under the North Sea, between Britain and mainland Europe, researchers found evidence of a lost prehistoric landscape. Rivers, marshes, forests, animals, hunting grounds, tools, human activity. A whole world where today there is only water. This place is called Doggerland, and the reason it feels so disturbing is not just that it drowned, it is that people probably watched it disappear, not in one clean movie scene. Slowly, the sea came closer, the old paths became wet, the land broke into islands. Places grandparents remembered as dry ground became stories no child could visit. Then the map changed forever. So when old cultures talk about land swallowed by water, Doggerland makes that idea harder to laugh at. A lost world under the sea is not always myth. Sometimes it is archaeology. Number 9. The Gilgamesh flood tablet in the 1800s, a clay tablet from ancient Mesopotamia, changed the way people looked at flood stories. It contained part of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and inside it was a flood story with details that feel strangely familiar. A warning before disaster, a vessel, living creatures taken aboard, a world covered by water, birds sent out after the flood, a survivor who lives to tell what happened. The strange part is not just the story. The strange part is how old it is. This was not a modern retelling. It came from the ancient world, written in cuneiform, preserved in clay, buried for thousands of years. And once people read it, the flood story was no longer sitting in one tradition alone. It had older shadows, older versions, older voices. The names were different. The gods were different. The details were different. But the shape of the story survived. That is why this discovery still feels uncomfortable. A flood story that old does not automatically prove what happened, but it proves ancient people were carrying this idea for a very long time. Number 8. The Black Sea, Flood the Black Sea, became one of the most dangerous places in flood research because of where it sits on the map. In the 1990s, researchers William Ryan and Walter Pittman suggested that Mediterranean water may have entered the Black Sea basin thousands of years ago, raising the water and flooding land where people may have lived. The theory is debated. Some versions make it sound catastrophic, others make it slower, smaller, less dramatic. But the idea never died, because the Black Sea sits near the world of ancient Near Eastern flood stories, the same broad region, where stories of water, warning, boats, survival, and a changed world were written down. That is why this discovery has power. It does not have to prove everything. It only has to put a real flood in the right neighbourhood. A basin changes, land disappears, people move, centuries pass, and later stories remain. The Black Sea is not a simple answer. It is worse. It is a reason people keep asking the question. Number 7. Atlit Yam off the coast of Israel, under the Mediterranean, there is a drowned village called Atlit Yam. This was not a ruin built for tourists. It was a real Neolithic settlement. Houses, wells, burials, farming, fishing, daily life. People drank from those wells. They buried family there. They worked near the sea and trusted the ground beneath them. Now that ground is underwater. That is why Atlit Yam hits harder than a giant flood theory. It is small enough to imagine. A village does not need the whole planet to drown. It only needs its own shoreline to vanish. Once the well is gone, the graves are gone, and the old land is under the sea, the disaster becomes bigger than geography. For the people who remembered it, that was not coastal change. That was the end of a world. Number 6. The Storegga tsunami. Some floods rise slowly. This one came like an attack. Around 8,150 years ago, a massive underwater landslide off Norway triggered the Storegga tsunami. Waves moved across parts of the North Atlantic and reached areas connected to Britain and the northern European coast. For anyone living near the shore, this was not a distant climate event. It was a wall of water. One day the coast is normal. Then the sea comes in wrong. Too fast. Too high. Too powerful. And after that, the old coastline is not just changed. It is haunted. This is why sudden flood stories feel different from slow sea level stories. Slow water becomes memory over generations. Sudden water becomes terror in one day. A tsunami does not need a priest, a poet, or a king to turn it into legend. It only needs survivors. Number 5. The Persian Gulf today. The Persian Gulf is water, but during lower sea level periods, parts of that region may have been exposed land. Some researchers have suggested that this drowned basin may once have been a refuge, with rivers, springs and roots for early people before rising seas covered it. That alone would be interesting. But the location makes it feel heavier. The Gulf sits near Mesopotamia, near Sumer, near Babylon, near the Tigris and Euphrates, near the world where some of the oldest written flood traditions survived. That does not turn the Gulf into a perfect answer, but it creates a strange silence under the water, a lost basin near the first cities, a drowned landscape near the oldest flood stories, a place where missing land and ancient memory sit almost too close together. If people once lived there, and if the water later covered it, then some part of the old flood imagination may have had real ground beneath it, ground that is now sea. Number 4. Beringia, America's oldest human story, has missing land. During the Ice Age, sea levels were lower, and a huge landscape connected Siberia and Alaska. That world is called Beringia. Humans and animals moved through it. Entire ecosystems lived there. Then the seas rose. Today, much of that ancient world is under the Bering Sea. That means part of the story of how people reached the Americas may be sitting underwater. Routes, camps, hunting grounds, coastlines may be evidence that would explain chapters of early American history we still argue about. Beringia is not usually treated like a flood myth, but it proves something just as strange. The modern map is lying to us. The world early humans crossed is not the world we see today. Some of the most important land in human history is gone. Not erased from memory, erased from the surface. Number 3. Pavlopetri A, City Under the Sea, sounds fake until you reach Greece. Off the coast of southern Greece is Pavlopetri, a submerged ancient town with streets, buildings, tombs, and a town plan beneath the water. That is the kind of discovery that keeps old sunken city stories alive. Not because it proves Atlantis, it does not, but because it proves the image is real. Streets can go underwater, tombs can sit beneath the sea. A town that once had footsteps, voices, trade, grief, and daily life can become a place divers move through in silence. That is the part people forget. The ocean does not only hide shipwrecks, it hides homes. And once you see a real city underwater, every ancient story about a drowned place feels a little less impossible. Number 2. Helike was a Greek city that vanished in disaster. In 373 BC, an earthquake and tsunami destroyed it. Ancient writers remembered the city as swallowed by water. This one matters because it shows how fast a real event can turn into something larger than history. A city falls. Water covers it. Survivors talk. Writers record it. Generations repeat it. Soon the disaster is not just an event. It becomes a warning. A symbol. A story people use to explain how quickly the world can punish human confidence. Helike was not prehistoric, but it reveals the machine behind flood legends. Disaster happens first. Meaning comes after. And once meaning attaches to a drowned city, the story is almost impossible to kill. Number 1. The missing coastline's the biggest flood discovery is not one site. It is the coastline we lost everywhere. After the last ice age, sea levels rose massively around the world. Ancient beaches disappeared, river mouths disappeared, fishing camps disappeared, migration routes disappeared, sacred places may have disappeared, early settlements may have disappeared. The places ancient people loved most were often the easiest to lose. Coasts, rivers, wetlands, islands, harbours before harbours existed, and many of those places are now underwater. That changes everything, because the oldest flood stories may not be trying to describe the entire planet. Some may be remembering a smaller world, a village, a valley, a coastline, a city, a homeland, a place that was real enough to lose and important enough to remember. That is what makes these discoveries feel wrong. They sound like myth. But the sea keeps proving one thing again and again. Human worlds really do disappear underwater.